Well, I'll tell you something. This is no longer a vacation. It's a quest. It's a quest for fun. I'm gonna have fun, and you're gonna have fun.
Dad, you want to ask her something?
Don't touch!
This is kind of an overview of our recent road trip, kind of a reinvention of the Great American Road Trip. Several thousand miles in total. This first leg was about 1,500 miles, I think. And this is our trip out west, about 1,462 on this route from our home in Peru, Illinois. Visited a sales rep in Des Moines, Iowa. Spent the night here in Montrose City, South Dakota, just west of Sioux Falls, in a city-run RV camp sort of in the city. We then proceeded on I-90 and spent a few days out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Kind of giving that overall view again. And this is something folks had told me years ago, well, if you go to Mount Rushmore, do more than just Mount Rushmore. So I did, although I have to say Mount Rushmore itself was fantastic. But we saw Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, did some hiking out in the Black Hills. Funnily enough, found out a guy from work was out there with his wife and their children, so we had dinner with them one evening and just had a wonderful time out in the Black Hills. Ask questions about this sign. Never would have guessed it was named after the horse that survived the battle that was named after the tribe. Beautiful, just a little walk around the campground, but I say it's just the exposed rocks are so dramatic. The Black Hills are just so beautiful. Just look at that sky. It's just absolutely gorgeous today. Then continued on. So we had left on a Monday in Peru, and then I believe it was on a Friday. Yeah, so on a Friday we left from the area around Custer, South Dakota, and we traveled up to where we would ultimately end up staying, which was here in near Monarch, Montana, in the Little Belt Mountains of the Lewis and Clark National Forest. And it was really quite beautiful. We ended up taking a slightly different route in, as it turned out. They gave us an alternate route, and we kind of came up from the north and then back south again, which is the way we'd done it in the past. So our mileage wasn't exactly the same. And our route was more accurately represented by about there. That's closer to the way we actually drove in. However, once we got in, we did end up driving down to Niehart, just because Kathy needed to use the restroom, and in the course there we spoke to Dan from the Inconvenience Store. I'll have to put a link there, really helpful guy. And he told me about some fantastic dispersed sites right here along Belt Creek. So this is closer to where we actually camped. There's the St. Thomas Camp where Montana Fiddle Camp is hosted, and I actually stayed here not far from what I'm told is an old missile silo. But there's just some beautiful dispersed camping right down in this area. So this was our trip out. It was a tremendous trip of about 1,500 miles. Really wonderful trip, no issues. Fiddle Camp is amazing. They have a bunch of extraordinary bluegrass artists teach at this camp. And then every evening at 7 they give a concert. So every evening I left my camp or wherever I'd been exploring out in the mountains and then joined Kathy where she was staying in a ground tent at the campground, and I got to hear a fantastic concert. So it is Saturday morning. In a few hours we drop Kathy off at Fiddle Camp, and I maintain our base camp here by Belt Creek, this beautiful little river. It's funny, some parts in the West, they'll call it a river. You're like, that's a creek. You see something like this, that's not a creek, that's a river. But no, it's a beautiful spot, and you know, like, it's a perfect application for our overlanding setup. Well, the trip back was a bit more extensive because from Fiddle Camp, we were going to visit, and did visit, a vendor, a supplier in Lebanon, Oregon, right around here in the general area. Saturday afternoon, Missoula, Montana. The rain did not wash the mud off the truck. Unfortunately, I do worry about getting ripped off when you can only secure the gear so much, but this is a very safe and secure area. One more trip out of the rather expensive but nice Staybridge suites. So that was the only thing available, are these like big long-term stay suite type hotel rooms. Got a bunch of computer work done, this and that, and as usual, still pressed for time. There's just so much work to do between work and just, I didn't even like process our photographs, just not enough time. But a Sprague Lake Resort in Sprague, Washington. I'm going to step out from behind the truck. But at that point, probably lose all audio because it's quite windy. It's moderately warm. It's like in the 50s, so compared to the 35-degree overnight lows we've been experiencing. So it's a very pretty place, not anything glamorous. Right over there is a train track that gets a lot of use, but they don't sound the horn. And I-90 is just over the horizon. If I point there long enough, be able to see some traffic moving on it. But there's a very nice little lake. Very nice little place to, like a little RV resort, sort of. So had some nice neighbors we've met. But simple place, not a lot to it. Okay, got some work done here at our camp in Waterloo, Iowa. And I'm going to take a little hike over to the Waterloo Falls. And then we're going to see about eating lunch and check out the McDowell Falls. So, should be good. One prudent thing to consider on a long road trip, especially one in which your wife has been willing to join you, is occasionally take a nice break at a hotel. So we had a nice little break at the Peppermill Casino in Reno, Nevada, where we had a nice hotel room and some good meals. Then we visited our son and our daughter-in-law down near Rancho Cucamonga, California, which is where they live by the San Bernardino National Forest. And where we stayed is up just north of Big Bear Lake. It was quite extraordinary. And this is an old Boy Scout camp. It's Holcomb Valley Ranch. So we just thought that place was absolutely fantastic. We were thrilled by it. And that was just such a great time. Okay, it's Saturday morning. We are at Humboldt Valley Ranch. I finally got the name right. Just up in the mountains above Big Bear, California. Drove down from Reno yesterday. Got here in plenty of time. Set up camp. Weather is gorgeous. It's been a wonderful trip. The things that's interesting in a trip like this is that you go through such completely different climates. So here it still gets quite cool at night because we're up in the mountains, but you can tell by the local flora, it's quite dry and deserty. Got the clothesline up, be doing some laundry this morning. This was a Boy Scout camp. So as a person who spent a lot of time as a Boy Scout leader, it's actually a lot of fun to see the vestiges of the Boy Scout camp. And there's a little vestige of the old Boy Scout heritage of Humboldt Valley Ranch. So, looking forward to this. Going to see our son and daughter-in-law today. And then, I think it's Monday morning. So this will be an easier part of the trip. It's been pretty intense in some respects. But we have today and tomorrow. And then Monday morning, we head out to Henderson, Nevada, easy drive, stay in a hotel there. This is one of the few times I've truly off-roaded this trailer. The drive up here, you can get a sedan up it, but it's challenging. Okay, tear down pack-up day is proceeding well. Not in any rush. Checkout time is no big deal, and we just have to get to Henderson by tonight. Last night, Ed, in charge of the camp, gave us access to a camp Wi-Fi, which was nice. We could catch up on things, and as is usually the case, everything was fine and we didn't really need to check up on anything. But it's nice to have the peace of mind. So it won't take us terribly long from here to get the rest of camp torn down. Very nice walk this morning and again last night. Holcomb Valley Ranch used to be Holcomb Valley Boy Scout Camp. Lots of memories came rushing back from all my years with my boys and scouting. We never used this camp, but this camp is so similar to the others. And you can just kind of visualize small armies of boys and young men exploring the wonderful world of scouting here in the mountains just above Big Bear Lake. So then from Big Bear we spent a couple of days there, and then on a Monday left the Big Bear area at Holcomb Valley Ranch, old Boy Scout camp. Saw the suppliers at a location in Henderson, Nevada, and then caught a couple of sales reps in the field on the way home. But there actually was quite interesting. So we left Henderson and we spent the night in some, I believe it was BLM land, but an absolutely beautiful campsite. Three Peaks Recreation Area, I think it is. It's just outside of Zion. So it was kind of up in this area. So I can't remember what the name of this campground is. Rock Creek?
Three Creek?
Three Rocks. Three Creeks? Rocky Creek. Not Rocky Top. It's a beautiful campground here in Utah. I don't know if it's officially in Zion, certainly very near Zion. And if I just walked over there, there's just an incredible view down into the valley and the town below. Huge solar panel array down in the other direction. And then looking in any other direction, you're seeing the amazing and beautiful little peaks here. So we're just in a couple of small little mountainsides. A couple of little lonely peaks out here overlooking this valley, and they established a little campground right here on the edge. So quite beautiful, quite wonderful. Kind of look out from our campsite and you can see there's an incredible view in each direction. Kind of torn as to which view is the most spectacular. I think I'm partial to this one. Again, that looks like a lake, but that's a field full of solar panels. And then the next morning we left, actually, so we were south of Beaver. So it was just off Interstate 15, so some of the really beautiful areas of Utah. Was not that terribly far from Zion where we camped. And then we picked up Interstate 70, which I didn't realize at the time is its western terminus. So we picked it up right here. Now if you don't know, this is the San Rafael Swell. I didn't even realize that when I set the route. You can drive right through the middle of it when you take I-70. And just extraordinarily, we felt like we had landed on Mars. Then we stayed in a wonderful camp. The next night we drove in, so that day basically after we left there, we drove to that camp. Then the next day we drove from our campsite to a camp just outside Fruita, Colorado, just shy of Grand Junction. You can kind of see our little route there. And that was another extraordinary camp. It's the Colorado National Monument, and they have just an absolutely beautiful campground there, Saddlehorn Campground, which was absolutely beautiful. You end up looking down over Fruita from an elevation. You can kind of see, this doesn't show you all the detail, but you do all kind of switchbacking to get up into there. Okay, it is Wednesday, the 28th of June, and this is the last night of camping on this 4-week road trip. Tomorrow, we drive to Denver, meet one of our sales reps, and stay in a hotel Thursday night in Nebraska, drive to Omaha, meet a sales rep, and drive home. So tomorrow night in a hotel, next night, excuse me, in our own beds in our own house. Oh, in our own bed, it's just Kathy and me on this trip. So each stop's a little different depending on what's provided. This is just outside Grand Junction, Colorado, Saddlehorn Campground. Beautiful. It's just elevated up over the valley below. Kind of a exciting little switchback road to drive up here. And does have flush toilets and running water, but no shower house. So that's why we don't have the little pop-up shelters set up. And we're just going to have dinner here. And we're probably just going to eat breakfast on the go. So we'll cook dinner, wash up, put all this away. And in the morning, should be very fast. Put away a handful of things and hit the road. So, almost done with a 4-week working vacation road trip. Next morning we left from there, drove straight through 70 to Denver. Met with one of our sales reps there. And then after finally finishing that part of the trip and leaving Denver, from there it was just Kearney, Nebraska to Omaha, and then back home. But again, you can see about 3,700 miles plus the 1,500 miles. It was an over 5,000 mile road trip. Kind of in the tail end of the route. Spent the night at a hotel in Kearney. That ended up being kind of a curious adventure where a bunch of people were going to some drag racing events. And it was amazing as they drove their drag cars. So I'd seen drag racing cars being pulled on trailers. I'd never seen drag racing cars pulling trailers of their own spare tires and equipment. And I just thought that was amazing. So basically, if you break down, I guess your trip is done. But that was pretty cool to see a parking lot full of drag racing cars there at our Holiday Inn. So that's the extent of the route, and over the next few videos, I'll be kind of editing in some clips and some beautiful stills of this kind of extraordinary overlanding road trip adventure.